Welcome to Sleepy Scientific Secrets, a quiet corner where we leave the noise of the day behind and gently uncover the hidden wonders of our world. Tonight, we begin a fascinating exploration. The Mariana Trench rests far below the moving skin of the ocean. It reaches deeper than any mountain is tall. Nearly 11,000 meters down the water presses with a weight that reshapes matter itself. Sound behaves differently there. Vibrations fade quickly as pressure thickens the water. It is a place where noise struggles to travel, like whispers sinking into heavy fabric. You might imagine the ocean falling asleep layer by layer, and perhaps your own thoughts can soften with it. As depth increases, the trench grows colder and darker. Temperatures hover just above freezing. Chemical reactions slow down. Even echoes lose their strength. Scientists have found that low-frequency sounds bend away from the trench rather than entering it. The shape of the seafloor guides waves elsewhere. Silence is not empty here. It is shaped and protected, like a valley that keeps its own weather. Sitting with this idea can feel like resting in a quiet room inside your mind. Life still moves in this calm. Deep sea creatures communicate without sound. Many rely on gentle light or subtle movement. Bioluminescent flashes replace voices. Energy is saved and shared carefully. In a world where sound costs too much, stillness becomes a language. If tonight's exploration felt like a peaceful escape, you can let me know with a like or stay longer by subscribing. Either way, I'm grateful you're here. And if you feel like sharing, I'd love to know what quiet corner of the world is listening along. Water density also plays a role in the hush. At extreme depths, layers of water trap motion. Micro vibrations dissolve before traveling far. Instruments placed in the trench record long stretches of near silence, broken only by distant seismic murmurs. It is one of the quietest natural places on Earth. Imagining that quiet can feel like stepping into a deep, slow breath. Even human sounds vanish quickly. Submersibles moving through the trench hear mostly themselves. The ocean does not answer back. This absence can feel eerie yet calming, like walking through falling snow at night. The silence of the Mariana Trench continues to stretch onward into deeper understanding, waiting patiently as the mind drifts further into rest. As the mind drifts further into rest, the trench keeps revealing its quiet logic. At these depths, pressure reaches more than 1,000 times the air at the surface. Proteins inside living cells change shape under this force. Some deep organisms produce a molecule called TMAO that stabilizes their proteins. It is like adding a gentle brace inside every cell. This chemical calm allows life to function without noise. Imagining that inner steadiness can feel like the body settling into a comfortable position. The water above forms layers that guide sound away. A natural sound channel higher in the ocean bends waves back toward the surface. Very little energy reaches the trench floor. What remains is absorbed by soft sediments made of clay and the remains of plankton. Sound is swallowed slowly, like footsteps fading on thick snow. There is comfort in knowing the world has places designed to quiet even the loudest motion. Seismic waves do arrive, but only the longest ones survive. Instruments hear distant earthquakes as slow rolling pulses. They travel through the earth and brush the trench like a passing tide. These low rhythms arrive hours after the event. Time feels stretched. The trench listens patiently, holding echoes without urgency. It can remind you that not everything needs to respond quickly. Currents here are weak and steady. Without storms or tides, the water moves at a walking pace. Food falls from above as marine snow. Tiny particles drift down for months before landing. This slow delivery supports life that grows and moves at an unhurried rate. Metabolism slows. Energy is conserved. The idea of nourishment arriving gently can mirror the way rest feeds the mind. Light never reaches this depth, yet some animals still glow. Their bioluminescence is brief and precise, a soft blue spark used for signaling or luring. Light replaces sound as the preferred message. In this environment, silence is not absence, but efficiency. The trench continues holding its quiet balance, while thoughts follow the same downward glide into stillness. Where silence becomes a natural state, the seafloor itself begins to speak in other ways. The trench floor is not smooth, but shaped by slow tectonic motion. The Pacific plate bends and sinks beneath another plate, creating constant but gentle stress. This movement releases tiny amounts of energy too soft to hear. It is measured as microseismic activity, like the quiet stretching of the earth. Knowing the planet moves without sound can feel reassuring, as if motion does not always need attention. Sediments here are unusually fine. They act like acoustic blankets. Experiments show that soft mud absorbs sound far better than rock. Layers of ancient microorganisms form a thick cushion. Each layer records a different era of ocean life. The silence deepens with every centimeter. It is similar to how memories settle softly when nothing disturbs them. Pressure also changes how water carries vibration. At extreme depths, water becomes slightly less compressible. This limits how sound waves form and travel. Energy disperses before it can organize into noise. The physics favors stillness. Imagining this can slow your own breathing, letting each breath dissolve gently before the next begins. Even human exploration adapts to the hush. Deep sea microphones are designed to detect almost nothing. They must be sensitive enough to hear a single distant tremor. Most of the time, they record calm. Long, uninterrupted stretches of near-zero sound. Researchers describe listening sessions that feel meditative. The equipment waits, and waiting becomes the dominant experience. Chemical processes add another layer of quiet. Methane seeps and mineral reactions occur slowly. Bubbles rarely form. Without rapid gas release, there are no pops or rumbles. Reactions unfold like time-lapse photography slowed even further. This patience in nature can invite the same patience inward, allowing thoughts to drift without needing resolution. Above all, the trench remains connected to the wider ocean, yet untouched by its chaos. Waves crash far above. Storms pass unnoticed. Down here, the environment filters disturbance naturally. The silence holds steady, and the mind can follow that steady path, moving deeper into calm without effort or intention. Moving deeper into calm without effort or intention, the trench continues to reveal quieter forms of activity. Bacteria living in the sediments consume organic material without oxygen. This process is called anaerobic respiration. It produces very little heat and almost no movement. Energy flows slowly through chemical pathways, like a firefly glowing without warmth. This silent metabolism sustains entire communities, and it suggests that life does not always need intensity to persist. Water pressure also alters how gases behave. Nitrogen and oxygen remain dissolved instead of forming bubbles. Without bubbles, there is no fizz, no sudden release. Even volcanic activity nearby appears muted. Lava cools quickly under immense pressure. It hardens without dramatic sound. The Earth expresses itself here with restraint. This restraint can feel like permission to soften your own reactions. The trench floor hosts scavengers that move with minimal effort. Snailfish drift rather than swim. Their bodies are gelatinous and adapted to pressure. Muscles are reduced. Movement costs less energy. Each motion is deliberate and small. Watching such life can feel like watching slow clouds. There is no rush to arrive anywhere. Magnetic fields behave subtly at this depth. The iron-rich rocks influence navigation for certain species. Animals sense direction without visual cues. They follow gradients rather than landmarks. Orientation becomes internal, like knowing where home is without thinking. This quiet guidance mirrors how rest can find its way naturally. Sound from human sources almost never reaches here. Shipping noise fades far above. Sonar waves bend and weaken. The trench exists outside daily human rhythm. Time stretches. Days and nights blur into a steady state. In this steadiness, thoughts can loosen their grip. Nothing demands resolution. Chemical traces from the surface do arrive eventually. Pollutants and nutrients sink slowly. They are measured in tiny concentrations. Their arrival can take decades. The trench records human presence as faint whispers spread across generations. Even impact becomes quiet here. This perspective can ease the weight of urgency. Above all, the Mariana Trench maintains its silence through balance rather than absence. Physics, chemistry, and biology cooperate gently. Each process supports the next without disruption. The quiet is active and alive. And as this balance continues, the mind can continue drifting alongside it, carried by the same unforced calm. Carried by the same unforced calm, the trench reveals how time itself behaves differently here. Radioactive dating of deep sediments shows accumulation rates of just a few millimeters per 1,000 years. Each thin layer settles gently and stays undisturbed. History is written slowly, like dust resting on an unused shelf. This pace can feel like an invitation to release urgency and allow moments to stretch. Water chemistry at these depths remains remarkably stable. Temperature, salinity, and pH change very little across centuries. This stability reduces chemical noise. Reactions proceed predictably and quietly. It is a controlled stillness maintained by distance from surface chaos. Thinking about such steadiness can help thoughts stop bouncing and begin to settle. Some organisms here lack traditional hearing organs entirely. Without ears, they rely on pressure and vibration sensed through their bodies. Their awareness is diffuse rather than focused. Sensation arrives softly from all directions, like feeling a room rather than seeing it. This way of sensing mirrors how awareness can soften before sleep. Gravity-driven flows occasionally slide down trench walls. These are slow-moving currents of sediment called turbidity flows. By the time they reach the bottom, they have lost most of their energy. What arrives is a gentle rearrangement rather than a crash. The seafloor accepts change without disturbance. This acceptance can echo in the way the mind receives passing thoughts. Carbon cycling here follows a quiet loop. Organic matter sinks, is consumed, and returns to water as dissolved carbon. There are no fast bursts of growth. Everything is recycled gradually. Balance replaces abundance. The system favors endurance over speed. This can feel comforting, as if rest itself is a sustainable state. Deep sea pressure also dampens molecular motion. Atoms vibrate slightly less than they do near the surface. Heat moves more slowly. Thermal noise is reduced. Even at the smallest scale, the environment leans toward calm. Imagining this microscopic stillness can help the body feel heavier and more grounded. Above all, the silence of the Mariana Trench is maintained by cooperation. Layers of water geology, chemistry, and life all support one another in quiet alignment. Nothing competes for attention. The stillness continues effortlessly, and with it, the gentle drift inward continues as well without needing direction or effort. Without needing direction or effort, the environment keeps unfolding in softer layers. Minerals slowly crystallize within the sediments under immense pressure. These crystals grow over thousands of years without sharp edges. Their structure forms evenly because growth is never rushed. Like frost appearing overnight on a quiet window. This slow order suggests that patience can shape beauty without force. Water trapped between sediment grains moves extremely slowly. This pore water can remain isolated for centuries. Chemical signals travel through it at a near still pace. Nothing spreads quickly. Change arrives diluted and gentle. Thinking about such slowed communication can ease the mind away from constant signals and responses. Some organisms here reproduce very rarely. Certain deep-sea species may only reproduce once in a lifetime. Energy is conserved for survival rather than frequency. Life invests carefully. This rhythm favors longevity over repetition. It mirrors how rest prioritizes recovery over activity. Acoustic experiments show that even artificial sound introduced at depth decays faster than predicted. The trench geometry scatters vibrations into many directions. No single wave remains intact. Noise dissolves into fragments, like thoughts breaking apart before forming worry. The space itself encourages quiet outcomes. The chemistry of metals also shifts. Under high pressure, iron and manganese behave differently. They bind with other elements more readily. This reduces free ions that could create electrical noise. Even electrons settle into calmer patterns. At a fundamental level, interactions soften. This can feel grounding, as if calm exists even beneath complexity. Biological clocks here operate without sunlight. Circadian rhythms adapt to pressure and food availability instead of day and night. Time becomes internal, regulated by need rather than schedule. This internal timing can feel familiar as sleep approaches, when the body no longer checks the hour. All these processes overlap quietly. No single force dominates. The trench remains steady through balance and restraint. Each layer supports the next without urgency. The silence holds its shape, and the gentle inward movement continues naturally, carried by the same steady calm that does not ask to be noticed. That does not ask to be noticed, the trench keeps holding its quiet patterns. Heat from the earth rises slowly through the crust here. Geothermal gradients are gentle and steady. Temperatures increase only a small amount across great depth. This prevents convection currents that could stir the water. Warmth stays contained, like a blanket that never shifts. The calm remains intact and predictable. Isotopes within the water reveal that some deep currents have been isolated for hundreds of years. Traces of carbon and oxygen show ages far older than surface waters. These masses move so slowly they feel almost still. They drift without mixing, carrying memory rather than momentum. Thinking of water that remembers can soften the feeling of time passing. Pressure also affects how salt behaves. At these depths, salt ions arrange more tightly. Electrical conductivity changes slightly. This reduces random electrical fluctuations. Even charged particles settle into orderly paths. The environment favors low noise at every scale, from oceans down to atoms. This layered quiet can feel reassuringly complete. Organic remains falling from above are broken down by microbes with remarkable efficiency. Almost nothing is wasted. Each molecule is reused carefully. There are no sudden blooms, only steady recycling. The process is slow and thorough, like tidying a room one small motion at a time. This care can echo inward, encouraging gentle attention rather than effort. Some species here exhibit extreme longevity. Certain amphipods may live for decades. Growth is slow. Repair is constant. Cells prioritize maintenance over expansion. Life stretches itself thin but stable. This endurance without strain offers a different image of strength. One built on rest. The water column above acts as a vast filter. Surface, noise, energy, light, and heat are stripped away layer by layer. By the time anything arrives, it is faint and softened. The trench receives only what remains after long travel. This selective arrival mirrors how the mind can let unneeded impressions fade. Even gravity feels different in experience. With little movement and no reference points, orientation becomes internal. Up and down lose urgency. Space becomes uniform, like floating in a dark room without edges. This can allow the body to release tension held for balance. All of these influences continue together. None interrupts the other. The silence is sustained moment by moment. A living equilibrium that does not require attention. And within that equilibrium, the inward drifting can continue, carried by the same quiet support that holds the deepest place on earth. Carried by the same quiet support that holds the deepest place on earth, the trench continues expressing calm through subtle processes. Dissolved oxygen levels here are extremely low yet stable. Microbes adapt by using alternative chemical pathways. Sulfates and nitrates replace oxygen in metabolism. These reactions proceed slowly and evenly, like a long, steady breath that never strains. This balance allows life to persist without disturbance. Pressure also influences how water molecules bond. Hydrogen bonds shift slightly under extreme force. This changes viscosity, making the water marginally thicker. Movement slows at a molecular level. Even drifting feels restrained. Imagining this gentle resistance can help muscles loosen, letting the body feel supported rather than suspended. Tiny particles of clay align under pressure, forming orderly sheets. These sheets reduce friction between layers of sediment. When movement occurs, it is smooth and silent. There are no sudden slips, only gradual adjustment, like turning over in sleep without waking. The earth rearranges itself quietly. Sound experiments show that background noise here approaches the theoretical minimum of the ocean. Thermal noise from water molecules becomes the dominant sound source. There is almost nothing else to hear. This makes the trench a reference point for silence, a natural baseline. Knowing such a place exists can make quiet feel more tangible and real. Chemical gradients guide organisms toward food sources. They follow faint trails of concentration rather than sound or light. Navigation becomes chemical listening, sensitive and slow. This method requires patience and stillness. It reflects a way of paying attention without effort, letting direction emerge rather than searching for it. The walls of the trench rise steeply and block lateral flow. Water exchange with surrounding regions is limited. This isolation preserves conditions for long periods. Stability becomes the defining feature, like a room where nothing changes unless invited. This constancy can feel deeply restful. Even decay follows this rhythm. Materials break down incompletely, leaving traces intact for centuries. Bones, shells, and organic fragments remain recognizable. Time touches them lightly. Preservation replaces erosion. This gentle handling of matter can mirror how rest preserves energy. All these quiet mechanisms continue together without conflict. Each one reinforces the next. The trench does not need silence enforced. It emerges naturally from structure and balance. And as these processes carry on, the inward drifting remains effortless, supported by the same deep calm that never asks to be named. That never asks to be named, the deep calm keeps extending through quieter details. Salinity at these depths remains almost unchanged across wide areas. Without evaporation or rainfall, the salt balance stays steady. This uniformity prevents density-driven turbulence. Water rests in place, like a lake that never ripples. Such steadiness can feel like mental space where thoughts stop colliding. Pressure also alters biological membranes. Cell walls become more rigid yet flexible enough to function. This balance prevents sudden chemical reactions. Exchange happens slowly and deliberately. Life regulates itself through restraint. The image of boundaries that protect without tightening can invite the body to relax its own defenses. Traces of cosmic particles reach even here. Neutrinos pass through the Earth and ocean without interaction. Detectors placed nearby record almost nothing. Space touches the trench silently. The universe moves through without leaving a mark. This vast, quiet connection can feel humbling and comforting at once. The absence of light allows pigments to fade over generations. Many creatures are translucent. Without color, there is nothing to reflect or absorb light. Bodies blend into darkness. Visibility loses meaning. like closing the eyes and realizing nothing is required to be seen. Awareness continues without effort. Chemical equilibrium dominates reactions. Without temperature swings or pressure changes, reactions reach balance and stay there. Nothing accelerates. Nothing stalls. Processes remain poised. This equilibrium feels like a pause that never ends. A place where nothing is pushed forward or pulled back. Slow accumulation of metals occurs through adsorption. Manganese and cobalt settle onto particles layer by layer. Growth is measured in atoms per year. These deposits record environmental conditions quietly, like a diary written one letter at a time. Patience becomes the only way to read it. Water circulation above continues its distant dance. Tides and waves move far overhead. Their energy dissipates long before arrival. What reaches the trench is only faint pressure shifts, barely noticeable, like hearing a storm through thick walls. The noise exists, but no longer matters. Every process here favors minimal expression. Nothing announces itself. Change is absorbed before it can echo. The trench holds a deep agreement among forces to remain quiet together, and within that agreement the gentle inward drifting continues, uninterrupted and supported. As calm carries calm without needing to explain itself, as calm carries calm without needing to explain itself, the environment keeps revealing quieter relationships. The pressure here changes the way proteins fold inside cells, making them more compact and stable. Enzymes become slower but more precise. Reactions happen with fewer errors. Life trades speed for reliability, like choosing careful steps on a dark path. This precision can feel soothing, reminding the mind that slowing down can increase clarity. The absence of strong currents allows particles to settle vertically. Gravity becomes the main guide. Tiny shells, fragments, and organic dust fall straight down. Their descent can take years. Each particle follows its own silent journey. This steady downward motion mirrors how thoughts can gently sink when not disturbed. Acoustic shadows form along the trench walls. These are regions where sound waves cannot reach due to the steep angles. Even if noise were present, it would be blocked. Silence is shaped by geometry. The land itself protects quiet, like standing behind a hill on a windy day, feeling still while movement passes elsewhere. Chemical signals between organisms diffuse very slowly. Communication happens through proximity rather than broadcast. Messages are subtle and local. No signal travels far. This keeps interactions calm and contained. It suggests that not everything needs to be shared widely. Some exchanges are meant to stay close. Water density increases slightly with depth but remains uniform along the bottom. This uniformity prevents vertical mixing. Layers remain intact. Conditions stay consistent. Predictability replaces variation. The nervous system often relaxes in predictable environments, finding comfort in knowing what comes next. Even decay is measured. When larger animals die, their bodies sink and become islands of nourishment. Scavengers arrive gradually. The process can last decades. Nothing is rushed. Each stage unfolds fully before the next begins. This patience can feel like permission to let experiences complete themselves. The rocks beneath store stress quietly. Strain builds slowly along fault lines. Release may take centuries. Most of the time, nothing happens. The earth holds tension without sound. This capacity can reflect an inner strength that does not need expression. Temperature gradients remain shallow. Heat moves upward at a pace too slow to notice. There are no thermal shocks. Warmth disperses evenly, like body heat under a heavy blanket. Comfort spreads without edges. All these layers continue overlapping. Physics, chemistry, and biology move together in low-volume harmony. Nothing interrupts the flow. Silence is maintained not by emptiness, but by alignment. And within this alignment, the inward drifting continues naturally. Supported by systems that have practiced quiet for millions of years. And within this alignment, the inward drifting continues naturally supported by systems that have practiced quiet for millions of years. The water rests around you. The particles float gently. Silence deepens with every breath. Motion slows and becomes almost imperceptible. You feel the calm carrying through each layer of thought. The mind softens. The body releases tension. Each gentle rhythm is absorbed without effort. A sense of stillness grows and lingers. You are cradled in the quiet. Every sound fades softly into the background. Darkness around you feels warm, like a blanket that holds everything in place. Movement drifts further away. The heart slows. The thoughts untangle. Each moment stretches gently. Breathing becomes even. Heaviness and lightness balance together. There is nothing demanding attention. Nothing pulls or pushes. Calm exists on its own. You sink deeper into it. Muscles let go. The mind drifts lightly. Each exhale releases what is no longer needed. Comfort spreads slowly. A soft warmth settles. The world outside feels distant. Peace remains close. Everything is held softly. The stillness surrounds and fills. Time stretches quietly. No effort is required. You rest in this gentle embrace. Breathing and drifting flow together. The quiet holds steady. All is calm. Slowly, slower. Each beat, each pulse, each thought softens. Drifting deeper, softly drifting. Stillness continues. And with every gentle breath, it fades into itself.